How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric. Welcome to this week's edition of Out of the Groove. You know, I've done so many episodes of this, I should have like an Out of the Groove poster or something on the wall behind me to make this actually look like a NASCAR show. Instead, I got a bunch of crap behind me that doesn't really have anything to do with what we're talking about. So what are we talking about today? New Hampshire was this past weekend, and there's a couple major storylines that came out of it, but not a whole lot to jump into. I'm going to hope to keep this episode significantly shorter than last week's 26-minute episode. Thank you so much to those of you who watched that entire marathon of an episode. I'm glad. I hope you guys felt like it was time well spent. So starting off, we were at New Hampshire this weekend, and Joe Gibbs Racing finally ends their very long winless streak. It's been almost a year. But it wasn't Kyle Busch like many people might have thought. Denny Hamlin gets his first win of the season, which effectively locks him into the playoffs, which is big for Hamlin. He was not in immediate danger. We've been talking about the playoff bubble the last few weeks. He wasn't immediately on that bubble, but I believe he was 14th in points coming into this race. Had a pretty big cushion over 17th, in points, but being 14th and now getting this win and vaulting himself up into like 7th or 8th or wherever he is now, got to be a pretty big deal for Denny Hamlin. But obviously it's an even bigger deal for Joe Gibbs Racing, who had been winless up to this point, and that has been a major storyline all year long. Joe Gibbs Racing the last 2 years or so has been probably the most overall dominant team in NASCAR. And this season they've had to watch their affiliate team, Furniture Row Racing, with Martin Truex Jr. and now rookie Eric Jones, just dominate, especially with Truex, all the stage wins. Truex himself has 3 wins on the season, and it looked like he might even get another one at New Hampshire this weekend. Joe Gibbs Racing's had to take a back seat to that 78 team all year, and I'm sure they haven't been super thrilled with that, but hopefully, for them at least, this win at New Hampshire is a step in the right direction. And that isn't to say Joe Gibbs Racing hasn't been good this year. Obviously, Kyle Busch looks very good on points. Hamlin now has his win. Matt Kenseth is kind of on the bubble, but he's had an up and down year. He's looking better as of late. Daniel Suarez, of course, is a rookie. He's in chase contention right now, but he's probably going to need a win, and that's not entirely impossible. And this doesn't exactly come out of nowhere. Like I said, Kyle Busch, he's been good for a lot of the series, led a lot of laps. It's very surprising that he has not won yet this year. He's been just wrong place, wrong time several times this year. And like I said, Martin Truex's Toyota has been very strong, so clearly some Toyotas do know how to win. It just hasn't been the Gibbs Toyotas until, Hamlin finally broke through this weekend. And it could have very easily been another Gibbs car winning this weekend. Kyle Busch led some laps, Matt Kenseth led some laps, and actually looked poised to possibly take home the victory until the late race restart. It was on that restart where we saw Dale Jr. stay out completely, where all the leaders came in. Matt Kenseth, who was leading at the time, took 2 tires, hoping to maintain his track position. Probably anticipating other drivers would take 2 behind him. Nobody else took 2 tires. The rest of the field took 4, so Matt Kenseth ultimately, he finished 4th, was not able to hold on to the lead. That went to Hamlin, who then had to hold off Kyle Larson in the closing laps. Martin Truex Jr. finished 3rd, so like I said, Toyota's still strong. But talking about playoff points and looking at that chase bubble, it was not an empty day for Matt Kenseth. He may not have gotten the win, and he may not know where he's going to be driving next season, but he did majorly extend his points lead over 17th place Joey Logano. New Hampshire has been one of Matt Kenseth's best tracks in the last few years. He finished in the top 10 in both of the first 2 stages to collect bonus points. Meanwhile, Joey Logano struggled mightily with the handling on his car most of the day until ultimately I believe he might have broke a track bar. Ultimately finished 37th in the race. He leaves New Hampshire. He was 7 points behind Kenseth coming into New Hampshire. He now leaves New Hampshire more than 50 points out of the playoffs. Clint Bowyer didn't have a great day either, so now he and Matt Kenseth are both neck and neck, 15th and 16th right now, the last 2 on the playoff grid. Joey Logano now is a mighty 50 points plus back from those 2 right now, so it's now looking more and more likely that Joey Logano might have to get a win. Now there's still plenty of time before the playoffs start. Joey Logano, he has a win this year. It was encumbered, yes, so we know he knows how to win, and clearly that's a team that has been to the Final Four before. They know how to win in clutch situations, but so has Matt Kenseth. He's also been in the playoffs basically every year. He's always often competing late. He knows what it takes as well. Clint Bowyer's a little bit more of a wild card, and that's the one I'd be a little nervous about right now. Clint Bowyer has been consistent this year. He hasn't really been in major contention for very many wins, but he's been a top 10 car in a lot of races, very many racetracks. It's been great to see Clint Bowyer competitive once again in a good car. But that team has not made I guess they did make the playoffs last year because Stewart got that win at Sonoma, but they were not a playoff team last year from the bulk of the season. So to come in this season and get off to as good a start as they have, they've slowly started to fade back now into the clutches of Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano, Joey Logano's been struggling, but Matt Kenseth at least started the year really poorly. He's starting to inch his way up. The trends right now show like things are looking good for Kenseth. Okay, maybe for Bowyer. Joey Logano's the one I'm most concerned about, but it's it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up the next few weeks. We're going to a lot of very different racetracks the next few races. Could see some very different results. But that's a lot of rambling about that. What else do we have to talk about? While I'm on the topic of Matt Kenseth, he's been in the news a lot lately because, as we all know, it was announced last week that Erik Jones would be replacing him in the 20 car. I did a whole episode last week about where I thought different key free agents potentially would go in the offseason. I said Matt Kenseth, most likely bet, in my opinion, was that he would go to the 88 or somewhere at Hendrick Motorsports. That's been a hot rumor for a couple weeks now. Matt Kenseth himself did address the rumors this last week, and he had to say, what he had to say did not entirely encourage my theory. When asked if he thought he was going to be in the 88 next year, Matt Kenseth said he didn't really know, but he didn't think that option was going to be available. So Matt Kenseth does not expect to drive the 88. He did not say anything about possibly driving the 5 car, which is the other seat at Hendrick Motorsports that many anticipate to be open. So it's still possible he could be at Hendrick, but Matt Kenseth seems skeptical, at least, that he would be in the 88 car. It's not impossible. He didn't say it's not going to happen. Obviously, he also said he hasn't thought about free agency or anything like that yet, so I don't think Matt has any clue where he's going yet, but at least from his opinion, he doesn't seem to think the 88 car would be a likely bet. And that's understandable. For months now, it's been anticipated that Alex Bowman would take that car, but the longer Hendrick Motorsports has stayed quiet on whether or not Bowman would take over the 88, the more skeptical people have become that it would be Bowman. A lot of people act like William Byron, who's been tearing it up in the trucks the last couple of years, and now Xfinity Series this year, he's got a couple wins. A lot of people think William Byron could go to the 5 next year, maybe the 88, so Hendrick's got some young talent, but they've been very vague about what they plan to do with them at this point. And so I think that's where a lot of the rumors came from Matt Kenseth taking over the 88. He's friends with Dale Earnhardt Jr. They've been around about the same amount of time now. He's a veteran that would potentially warm that seat up for a year or two, while guys like William Byron, who are pretty young right now, maybe become fully fledged drivers that they think can compete for championships in a couple of years. That would make sense. That's kind of been the thought process behind a lot of these rumors, but at least as far as Matt Kenseth thinks, he's not buying the rumors yet. So that's pretty interesting. Moving on from that, there's also some interesting news from the Dale Earnhardt Jr. camp. Dale Earnhardt Jr., you guys all know, is retiring from NASCAR this year. He has said recently that he thinks he's going to run some Xfinity races next year, at least he hopes to, so there's a good chance that could be very likely. But there are also rumors that he would run the Clash next year, formerly the Sprint Unlimited. It's the race at Daytona before the actual Daytona 500. It's kind of just the exhibition race that's not for anything but money and fun. There was rumors that he could run that. Well, those rumors have been also dashed, unfortunately, for Junior fans. Amy Earnhardt, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s wife, currently posted on Twitter earlier this week, basically saying that she does not think Dale just going to race in that. She's cited mainly health concerns. Junior is healthy now after coming back from that nasty concussion last year. She says it would be unwise for Junior to just run at Daytona, which is the most dangerous track in NASCAR probably. She looks at it as just an unwise decision, especially when he's basically retired from racing at that point. So she's basically said it's not going to happen. So sorry, Junior fans who are booking their tickets to Daytona next year, might want to pause. That's not a big news story because it is the Clash. Who really cares about that race? It's a fun race to start the season. Doesn't really have any impact in the long run. We don't remember the winners of the Clash 3, 4, 5 years in the future. I don't remember who. I don't even know who won it this year. I already forgot. I know, of course, me saying that, you guys are probably gonna leave a bunch of comments saying it was this guy, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. So feel free to leave your comments. I'm not looking it up. It doesn't matter. So yes, it makes sense. Junior might run some Xfinity races next year. All right, fun. He's got his own team. Why not? Do what you want to do, I guess. But it at least seems at this point that Junior is going to be 100% done with Cup racing at the end of the season. So I guess if you were going to book tickets for Daytona, I might want to book him for Homestead. That'll be his last race, it seems. Yeah, they're both in Florida. Not that long of a drive. Now, there's not a lot else to talk about as far as this past weekend. It is worth noting Kurt Busch and Daniel Suarez were both fined $10,000 for having a lug nut. Unsecure post-race, but no crew chief suspensions, anything like that, so kind of a lot of nothing at this point. As I am filming this Wednesday evening, the truck race is at Eldora, so obviously me saying that and this episode coming out on Thursday means the race was yesterday, so I can't really say anything about it, and I'm obviously not going to be able to talk about it, but I am looking forward to that, so hopefully, those of you watching on Thursday, obviously, hopefully the race tonight was good. The race last night was good. I should just cut this part out. So looking ahead to Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This weekend is NASCAR's annual trip to the very historic 2.5 mile rectangular track in Indianapolis. So it's always interesting, always fun to see who gets to win at this place and who gets to kiss the bricks at the end. Do they still do that? As historic as this race is, rarely produces the best racing, if I have to say. But should be exciting nonetheless. It's Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s last trip to the thing. A lot of veteran drivers who've not won at that track before. The Yard of Bricks could be very historic for some of them, very fun for some of them. It's definitely an interesting race. Not always the most exciting race, it's a big track. It's like Pocono. Cars get strung out single file. It's hard to pass because it's so flat. It's it is what it is, but it's historic, so it still creates quite the spectacle. I'll be looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. If you want my pick for the race, this might be interesting. I'm going to go out for a long shot here. I'm picking Jamie McMurray to win this weekend at the Brickyard. Hear me out. Jamie McMurray's had a pretty good season points-wise. He hasn't won a race, but he's been close a few times. He's looked solid in points this year. He's had a great points season, and his teammate Kyle Larson's been one of the fastest cars week in and week out, and Jamie McMurray has won at Indianapolis in the past, so he knows how to get around here to some extent. So yeah, I know it's a long shot pick, but I'm going for it. I'm going all in. All my chips are in now. I think Jamie McMurray gets the win this weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Out of the Groove. Thank you guys for watching. Worth noting, and sorry in advance if this throws your entire weekly routine out of whack, I suppose. But there will not be an episode of Out of the Groove this next Thursday. I will be out of town as of today, actually. Thursday. I leave today to be out of town. I'm going to be out of town for 10 days. So hopefully I get to see some of the race this Sunday. I probably will be able to see some of it, but I will not be able to film an episode and edit an episode this next week. So sorry guys, this is an off weekend for Out of the Groove. We'll be back the week after, whatever track is next, I don't even know. So hopefully you guys can come back to this comment section after Indianapolis and discuss how the race went if you want. I don't care, but just thought I'd let y'all know. But aside from that, thank you guys for watching. You can follow me on Twitter, Patreon, support all that fun stuff. Snapchat's down there, I think. All that great stuff. Dex Season 8 race number 5 is up earlier this week. That's on the side probably somewhere. You can check it out on my channel. If you're into that, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for the support. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great week next week and a weekend after that. I'll see you in 14 days. Have a good one, guys.